Where are the upsets this week? We did not have monster upsets last week. And for my money, it feels a little too quiet around here. There are point spreads, like Bama, Texas, for example, that are so big, you're not entertaining the thought. App State is at A&M. You're not even entertaining the thought. And I would just suggest entertain the thought, because this is college football. So what are the odds? I'm going to give you a little 1 to 10 scale here. What are the odds some of these upsets happen? Why not? Since we've already picked the game. This Bama-Texas game, pretty straightforward. If you can consistently maintain poise with Quinn Ewers, if you can consistently get Xavier Worthy involved early, if you can consistently turn 50-50 balls into 70-30 balls, and you can expose, and I say this relatively, if you can expose Alabama's corner play as not being great, but instead just being pretty good, this is all theoretical. If you can do all that, you may still lose. I hate to say it, you may still lose. I think what Alabama's going to bring in there Saturday may be a little bit too much for anyone in the country to handle. I think it will be too much for Texas. So I put this at like a 1.5 or a 2. Now, I know that line is 20, 20 like that's nothing to scoff at. I think it's a 2. We're going to be at this game. So if it goes down, unlike last year when we jetted home and we missed Bama falling in the state of Texas to Texas A&M, we're going to be there. Now, written on this Post-it is the unfortunate testimony of the last time that I flew into Austin Bergstrom International Airport, where I will fly into tomorrow at an undisclosed time. Last time I flew into that place, I still have nightmares 3 or 4 times a week about this. I sauntered over to the rental car lot. I waited 4 hours in line, famously, at which point they only had a 16-seater van available. And so I hopped in that thing, and I just drove a 16-seater van around the state of Texas. Let's cross our fingers. Even those of you who claim to be my worst enemy, let's just don't wish that on me again. Let's have a nice Sorrento or a Rio or a Civic ready for me tomorrow. Please and thank you. Next up, App State at Texas A&M. Have you looked at this game this week? It started at 17. It's now Texas A&M minus 19. This, to me, is fool's gold. Total fool's gold. Folks are criticizing A&M. They pitched a shutout last week, and they're criticizing them because they only hung, I think, 31 on Sam Houston State. Look, here's the thing. One of my favorite metaphors is the crowbar and the bicycle spokes. And that is usually what happens when a timing and rhythm-based offense like App faces a defense with so far superior front seven depth and talent that you can't even get moving. And what happens is, instead of watching them score in the 60s last week and saying to yourself, yeah, even if we shave 50% of their production, they'll still be in the 30s, that's not the way it works. It actually just looks like you go from 100 to 0. You just grind to a halt. And so you very well could turn on this game, and the score in the third quarter is A&M 28 and App 7 or something like that, and you've seen it a million times, but there's 1,000,001, and you find yourself foolishly asking, why didn't I see this coming? Why did I think that they were going to be anything against this defense like they were against the Gene Chizik-led North Carolina ghost defense last week? And the answer is they're not going to. I think Texas A&M is going to win this. I think they're going to win it comfortably. I do not have anything more than a 2 on the upset scale here. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not going to waste a whole lot more time on it. Next up, Kansas at West Virginia. Every buddy of mine, every one of them that wants to sound like the sharpest guy in the room has told me this week, watch out for Kansas. Now, my retort is, are you picking the upset or not? Not a single one has picked the upset. They're doing that classic text it so that if it does happen, I can say I called it without actually calling it. I had a buddy named Seth in high school, used to call a home run before every at bat and would hit a few and then claim he called it. Well, that doesn't count, friends. You can't just be telling me, look out for Kansas. You can't be saying, watch where I hit this ball, and then if they pull the upset, if you go deep, all of a sudden you called it. Call it. Well, I'm not calling it because I think West Virginia's winning Saturday, and I think they're covering Saturday. They are actually one of our Ramen Noodle Express best bets. And why do I think that? Well, I think that it is one of the biggest sighs of relief in America for JT Daniels, quarterback, now at West Virginia, to go from being in the environment he was in week 1, making a picture-perfect pass with time winding down and having a receiver just essentially take that thing and say, here. And the game as well, here. And I'm not here to bang on college kids. That's why I'm not repeating a name. But JT Daniels played well enough to win in week 1. They didn't win. All that did for me is pull this point spread down a little bit further than it should be. So we're taking West Virginia to win and cover. I also cannot help but remember that run defense for West Virginia played to the standard we expected it to. Remember that? Remember how I told you they've gotten bigger, they've added depth, they've done it specifically with Big 12 play in mind, and they held Pitt to under, I think, 2 yards per carry. They held them to some very, very low number that is normally correlated with winning a football game. I think it translates very well this week. I think they've got Kansas's, well, I think Kansas has their full attention. This is a conference game, and they've got to get that taste out of their mouth, immunity. So I think that West Virginia wins this thing and covers. I've got it at a 3, okay? Because I got respect for Kansas. I do. Not enough to pull the upset, so I've got it at a 3 on the upset scale. 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, Nashville is buzzing. And they're buzzing because our Commodores, the Fighting Simmons, for those on the streets out here. And if you know, you know, and if you don't waste your time. But the Fighting Simmons, also known as Commodores outside the 605 or 615 of Vanderbilt, they're taking on Wake Forest this weekend. Good news, Mr. Hartman, the quarterback there for Wake Forest, is back. And that is good news because it was initially feared that he was going to be gone a lot longer than this. And with that announcement, this point spread went from 6.5 all the way up to Wake minus 13. I still think there's a shot for Vanderbilt. The model thinks there's a shot for Vanderbilt. What I think they need is they need critical success on third down, probably like 9 of 13, 10 of 14, because you just can't let them start racking up plays. It's the padlock stat here will probably be the amount of plays that Wake Forest runs, which sounds kind of simple, but you know, sometimes this stuff's not all that hard to figure out. It's not rocket surgery, as some would say. And therefore, I'm looking at the upset scale, and this thing's 13.5. It's accounted for the quarterback coming back. I think they need to rattle him early because there could be rust as a factor there. Could be. So I think they need to rattle him early. And by rattle him, I don't necessarily mean sacking him. I just mean creating enough disruption, maybe forcing some errant throws. Just get someone second guessing over there. Get him second guessing. Make him see 13 or 14 defenders on the field. If you can do that, and if you have critical success on third down, I think there is a 4.5 in 10 shot. You know what? Forget it. We're going to round up. 5 in 10 shot. I like Vanderbilt. Okay? They got a quarterback you need to pay attention to as well. I like Vanderbilt. So I'm going to give it a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. I think it could happen. Why not? We've already got one gift with the wing flap. Let's do another one. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me. That's how we keep this entire thing free.